saw that, the way the back end sort of flipped out there, and that's with the traction control on. Had I been in race mode at that point, we'd have probably been in a ditch by now. Good morning and welcome back to the Alfa Romeo 4C Spider. It has been a long time since I've done any videos in this car, well over 5 months I believe at least, possibly longer. There's a couple of reasons for that. One is that the car has been in a garage, stored through the winter, and haven't really been using it much other than to take it just round the block to keep the oil going round the engine and keep everything working. But other than that, I haven't actually been using it, so there's not been anything to report. But the other reason is because I wasn't entirely sure in this day and age of YouTube videos about Lamborghinis and Ferraris and all these other supercars that are out there, that anyone was actually interested in knowing anything about this little Alfa Romeo 4C. So I wasn't actually planning to do any videos on it, if I'm honest. However, following some emails and comments from viewers that have watched the videos I've done on this, okay, I'm going to be honest, I did have one email, one comment from a viewer who watched the videos that I've done on this little Alfa Romeo and said, would I be doing any more, because he would like to see some more. So these videos have been done in response to that. This is one of the first times I've had the Alfa Romeo out this year on a nice day like this with the roof off, you'll notice. And one of the reasons for having the roof off is a new rule I've developed for this year. The new rule I'm going to have for driving my Alfa Romeo 4C Spider is to, whenever possible, drive it with the roof off. And that's because I want to get the most authentic driving experience I can. I want all the noises, all the smells, all the things that I can possibly get whilst driving this car. And having the roof off is the key reason that I bought the Spider version. So from now on, it's for the whole of this year, I'm going to drive it with the roof off, except for when it's either raining or snowing, of course, in which case I'll put the roof back on. Given that I didn't use my previous cars hardly at all, I intend to use this Alfa Romeo. I've made something of a resolution for this year, New Year's resolution, that I'm going to drive this car for at least 4,000 miles this year. And I'm going to go and hunt out some of the most exciting roads I can in the UK to do that. So I've set in myself a goal of 4,000 miles in this Alfa Romeo 4C. So I've got some trips planned in this, which I will take my cameras along with me and film. So there you go. I have got some things planned with it. I do intend to be using it. I think now it's important to get the car out, get it back out on the road and give it a run. And that's exactly what we're doing now. We're taking it for a little run out. We're going to do a good 40 or 50 miles. It's a beautiful day. And it really is great to be back out in it again. I'm not going to push it too hard at the moment. Just get some temperature back into these tyres. And it's fantastic to be back out in this little car. Especially with the roof off. It's a beautiful day. And the roads are nice and clear and they're pretty quiet too. So this is pretty good. Now I must confess, like a lot of people who are into cars, during the winter months I did spend some time on the various Auto Trader and Piston Heads websites looking to see if I was tempted into anything else. But I'm going to be honest, I still absolutely love this car. I've had it almost 18 months now, and getting back into it and driving it on this road makes me realise just how good it is. I do recall getting really bored with my Porsche Cayman S within 9 months of buying it. I also got quite bored with some Lotuses, which is a bit of a shock really to some people, a bit of a shock to me to be fair. But the problem with the Lotuses was more that they didn't really have the comfort and the modern day technology that this car has. But having had this car for over 18 months and now getting it back on the road in the spring, I can honestly say that I still absolutely love it, which is unusual for me to still find a car an absolute thrill to drive after having it for over 18 months. I think one of the problems I'm going to have on one of the road trips I'm going to do in this car quite soon is where to pack my stuff, because when you take the roof off, which is absolutely my intention, you have to put it somewhere, and really the only place that you should put it is in the boot. And when you put it in the boot, there's literally no room for anything else. I reckon you've probably got more room on a motorbike with a couple of panniers than you will packing stuff in this, but we will find out. Okay, so car's now in dynamic mode. I'm going to have to take a careful drive out of here. Have to be a little bit careful. So here we go. Now when you're in dynamic on this car, you immediately notice a considerable difference in the response. It's much quicker on the throttle, much more responsive from the throttle, and yeah, it's off like a little rocket, so you've got to be careful. Now I have said in the past that this car is pretty jittery when it's on the road, and getting back into it again after such a long time does remind me of just how careful you have to be when you're driving this car. You really got to be quite on the ball with this car. You cannot afford to just sort of sit back and not keep your eye on the road, especially in this particular driving mode. Now it has also got race mode, which I did try once and nearly crashed it. With race mode, for me, that's strictly for the track, because the problem with the race mode is it completely disables the traction control, and with no traction and a very hardened suspension on unevenly cambered roads, as I found out, it can be pretty dangerous, and the back end of the car can flip out really easily. so it's not one that I'll be not a mode I'll be using on the normal day of driving. This is a little route that woo! It really does take off, this little car. It's a great little road I've found that tests it out quite well. I was actually thinking of getting a Caterham at one point, but I decided that, whoa! So whether you saw that, the way the back end sort of flipped out there, and that's with the traction control on. Had I been in race mode at that point, we'd have probably been in a ditch by now. That just goes to show how careful you've got to be with this little car. You cannot afford to make mistakes. And there we are. And now we're stuck behind a tractor. Well, it was fun while it lasted. Because I'm going to have to drive through some water. Oh, I'm going to drive through a ford. This is the first time I've ever driven through a ford in this car. Be very careful. Luckily it's not very deep. So you'd need a Land Rover to go through this, but there we go. We've done it. Well, that's been a pretty good morning out, and I have to say I really feel like I'm back in the flow again with driving this Alfa 4C. One other thing I think is a good little test where you know whether you've got an exciting car or not is whether or not you can drive that car slowly and still find it fun to drive. And for me, that's definitely the case with this Alfa 4C. Thanks for watching, and hopefully we'll have a few exciting driving videos coming up soon. Cheers.